Welcome to Meet the Candidate, recording here today at Dry Fly Distillery. My guest for this session is Sean Clynch, who is a candidate for the 5th Congressional District position. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Lani. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
I look forward to getting acquainted with you. And starting with, just tell me about where you grew up and started school.
Well, I was born here in Spokane, but my father had a job in the mining business overseas, and so I grew up mostly out of the country in Southwest Africa, mostly Australia, but also Singapore. Returned here to Spokane when I was 16, and I attended North Central High School for like half a year, and then my father got a job in Colorado, and I moved to Grand Junction, and that's where I graduated in 1979 from high school.
Oh, okay. So while you were, that's really a fascinating background to have. In any of those places, was there an opportunity for you to get an early first job to learn how to connect the concepts of work and effort?
Well, my father was a geologist, and I worked for him a lot. He would take us out to the bush, as they call, or the outback in Australia, and we could work for him there. And I did some work in, like, they had warehouses in Perth where we lived, and reorganizing the warehouse. And I remember working as a bartender at some private party in Perth, but I don't think I ever had a real regular job there other than working for my father. It wasn't until I got to America and going to high school here that I started working as a dishwasher and a busboy and things like that. That's more of an American thing than an Australian thing.
Yeah. Well, so you do have a background with a strong work ethic from your family then?
Yes.
So what other education did you pursue, if any? Some people are self-read, and I don't know enough about you to know what question to ask there.
Well, I did join the Army right after high school, and then when I came back to Spokane after I finished my Army service, and I attended Eastern Washington University, and I got an International Affairs degree, class of 1992. And then I went to Congress, and I interned on Capitol Hill for 3 months. And then I went to Bosnia and ended up working there for many, many years.
Who did you intern for?
Congresswoman Eva Clayton, and I was a Democrat at the time, and she was a Democratic congresswoman from North Carolina, the first black woman to be elected from North Carolina, actually. I had served in the Army at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and that's what the North Carolina connection that made my resume stand out to the person who hired me for the non-paid internship.
Yeah, non-paid internships are a lot of...
Lots of experience, but I had to like work in a restaurant at the same time.
At the same time to make a living. Well, you have had a lot of travel experiences, and one of the questions I often ask candidates is what kind of travel experiences, or what have you learned from some of that travel that you bring to this position?
Well, I mean, I remember growing up in Perth, and my father worked a lot in Indonesia, which was a desperately poor country. It still is, but back then in the 70s even more so. And I observed lots of poverty up front and close. Lots of beggars, lots of what we would call panhandling, and terrible things to see on the streets. And it was always bothered me a little bit. The scale of the poverty was so great. And one thing that really troubles me now in our country is it's reminding me more and more of when I grew up and traveled in these very poor countries, and to see all the homeless and all the panhandling and all the begging on the streets is not something I ever expected to really see in the United States. And I know in Australia they still don't have it.
Yeah. That's true. So tell us a little bit about your life today, what it is that you're doing now, and what you enjoy doing for recreation.
Well, I'm a substitute teacher here in Spokane. I've been doing that since 2017. I like to sail. I own a couple sailboats. I had a big one, and I kept it on the coast for many years, and now I just have a smaller one that I use on the lakes around here. And politics is something I'm very interested in, and I keep close tabs on the political situation.
So what drew you to look into politics and actively volunteering to be a candidate?
Well, I've always been interested in politics, and as soon as I finished my college, I went to Washington to seek an internship. And that was a great experience, a wonderful experience. And then I went on to Bosnia. I mean, the only reason I went to Bosnia was because I had been studying about Yugoslavia during my international affairs studies. And so I went there just because I was interested in it from what I had learned and from following the news. So yeah, politics has always played a big role in my life, and has directed me to do things that I might not otherwise do, because I'd never been to Bosnia before. I just read about it and I got interested, and I went there and I ended up living there for 7 years.
Wow. So that's an interesting choice. It must have been a very fascinating place for you. Is that part of the story of how you've because you mentioned that you had interned for a Democratic congresswoman, but you're running as a Republican. Was that Bosnia trip part of that transformation, or how did that come around?
It's just the Democrat Party has just changed so much. It's like Ronald Reagan once said. He was a Republican, but he was a Democrat before, and he said that the Democratic Party had left him, and I feel the same way. I mean, I can't get on board with the progressive agenda. I can't get on board with the equity agenda. It's just a complete violation of the principle of equality that our Constitution is founded upon. I mean, I acknowledge the founders may have had flaws, but I acknowledge that I have flaws too, and it's not for me to judge them. And all I can see is the results that they gave us, this great country, with most powerful country in the world, and I want to make it stronger and not tear it down. So that's why I'm a Republican today, although I'm probably more a centrist Republican than the far right, perhaps, but on some issues maybe I am on the right, but on some issues I'm probably more in the center.
Okay, well, this is a good opportunity for you to give your 1 minute wrap up on where someone could find more about your issues, and for you to explain why should people vote for Sean Clynch for 5th Congressional District.
Well, my name is Sean Clynch, and I have a website. It's called Clynch for Congress. And you can find more about me on that website. I think my experience in the Army, I was in the 82nd Airborne Division for 4 years, and then I worked in Bosnia for many years doing reconstruction. And I think both those experiences are very valuable in regard to the war in Ukraine. I have a lot of understanding of that war just because I was in Bosnia, and dealing with the Serbians are very much like dealing with the Russians. But my take on the war in Russia is that we should be doing far more to try to peel away the Russian people from Putin or other potential authoritarians. I very much admire Ukraine and the fight that they're making. But the prize is not Ukraine, the prize is Russia. If we could bring Russia over onto our side, we would really change the whole strategic picture of the world, make war with China far less likely. So that's one of the reasons I'm running, is because I think my experience internationally is far superior to our current representatives, and I think I could really help in the Ukraine situation as far as being in Congress and knowing about what happened in Bosnia, and knowing that same thing can happen in Ukraine. A lot of corruption in Bosnia during the rebuilding, and I'm afraid the same thing is going to happen in Ukraine.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in today, Sean. And that's Sean Clynch for running for Congress in 5th Congressional District.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lani.
Okay.
From Chud Sr. to Dick Wendell, to Kristen and myself.
And now to our kids.
Our goal is to help people drive for generations.
From roll-up windows to power everything. From stick to automatic. From gas to electric.
No one can totally predict what technology is coming our way.
But I can guarantee we will be here before and after the sale, giving you the confidence for generations to come.
That's the Wendell way. Drive for generations.
Hey voters, join me, Kirk Cameron, on Saturday, September 24th with We Believe, We Vote at the Spokane Convention Center for a night of celebrating biblical citizenship.
Join We Believe We Vote for our annual fundraiser on Saturday, September 24th, 2022 with Kirk Cameron. For tickets and event information, please visit WeBelieveWeVote.com. That's WeBelieveWeVote.com. We'll see you there.
Weather in the inland Northwest can wear you down. And if your gutters are in poor condition or you do not have gutters, you could suffer damage that could cost a fortune to fix. Rainman Seamless Rain Gutters has almost 30 years of professional experience in serving the inland Northwest region and strives to ensure customer service that is second to none from the time you call to the end of the project.